How's it going, everybody? Brian Cusco here at Triple B. Today we've got another Herpeton talk to you coming straight from Petr Necas out of the Ukraine from a company called Bion. I will put a link down in the description so you can find all their stuff. I personally thought that Petr gave the most passionate talk at the meeting that weekend, and watch yourself and find out why. You're watching Triple B TV.
I hope that some of you at least smile, because I call myself Godfather of Chameleons because I was awarded this title by my colleagues and I think it is something that I like, not for the title but for the responsibility and for the humbleness that is deep inside of this stuff. I feel responsible for chameleons. I feel responsible for chameleons outside in the field, as well in our terrariums, in our cages. And let me tell you some stories and let me tell you one story about how it comes that chameleons are actually now so well established in our cages. Let us see what is Bion about. Let us see what are actually chameleons about in captivity. I love chameleons. I love them for many reasons. I have scientific, I have personal, I have even a mystical and spiritual connection with them because they are really, really special. They are in many aspects very similar to people. If you like it or not, it's fact. And for herpetoculture, they are really like indicators, because they are hardly more sensitive animals for the herpetoculture than chameleons. You know, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong in the case of chameleons. Okay, we can learn from that, and we can take these lessons also to other groups. Let us start the story about Parsons chameleon in a completely different territory, which is Yemen. Yemen 1984 was very special for me because my father, as a medical doctor, had an opportunity to work there as an expert, and he luckily invited a young gentleman, this is me, 30 years ago and 30 kilograms ago. And I get the opportunity to see these fantastic Yemen chameleons that are called also veiled chameleons, specifically in the US, first in the wild. Nowadays, everyone said, I'm bored by these like veiled chameleons, they are everywhere. At this time, it was something like, you know, like a treasure, yeah? And seeing my first wild male sitting on a branch in the wilderness of Yemen was really something very, very special. I thought it is special. I did not know how special it is, and it is really a very interesting point that I speak about this now, because the story continued. Between 1984 and 1992, I was lucky enough to establish this species very well in captivity in Europe. And actually, as it looks like, it is rather simple. It is not as simple as it looks like, and actually that we say now these Yemen chameleons are very easy to breed. They are easy to breed, but we need to take into consideration that they can reach up to 16 years in captivity under ideal conditions. And they in fact live only 3 to 5 years. What does it mean? It means that we do not do a good job. We do not do a good job even in the most promising chameleon species in captivity. Okay? However, the species is established, and I had actually a dream, and the dream was, let us establish chameleons in captivity in a way that we do not need to touch the natural populations anymore. Yeah? And this dream actually became reality, because at the beginning of the 90s, you know this gentleman next to me, right? Ron Tremper knocked on my door on a little house in Central Europe in Czech Republic and says, hey, I want your chameleons. And he took the breeding stock to the United States, and there was a very interesting parallel, because at this time This chameleon species was first introduced to the United States on this in this territory in the Zoo of San Diego. Yeah, the first ones came in parallel. Like my offsprings were brought to the United States by Ronald Tremper, and because he was very successfully reproducing them, they step by step became a normal appearance until today. You hardly can visit now a Petco store where no wild chameleons is around. I'm at one side proud that my dream became true. There's no need, but there's a big question mark. I will question myself actually. There's no need anymore to take them from the wild. They are everywhere. They are very well established in captivity, and actually most, if not all, wild chameleons here in the United States are actually descendants in the 30th generation of my original breeding stock. There are downsides. There are downsides. You have seen the former pictures of the original breeding stock, and I have to tell you the same what Philip also mentioned. We have a big issue, and the issue is inbreeding. What I did not know 33 years ago, while I was a student of biology and I did not know all the fine stuff that we know now, was that these 5 females that I brought from Yemen and 3 males are not enough to build long-term a healthy, genetically healthy population in the captivity. So same as in all the other vertebrates that we domesticate, yeah, we get troubles, and the first signs are actually that you see that their patterns become completely different than on the regular wild animals. It is worse. It's a new morph arised. People say, and there's a legend about 2 wild specimens having been found in Yemen, and based on those, this morph, which is called transparent here in the United States, calicos or pieballs or whatever in the other parts of the world, was established. I do not like them too much because for me they do not see proper, but this still is a good picture. There is a picture after 30 generations of very limited genetic stock that leads to something that I'm not happy to show you, but we need to face the hard facts, and it looks like this one. Okay? After 30 generations, we can see crippled animals with 2 tails, without front legs, with completely different body proportions, and we face actually something that we might not realize that it is a problem, because whales and the Yemen chameleons are everywhere, but they are actually on decline from the perspective of their genetics. Okay, so it is like a medal. Positive side, okay, we have a very well established thing. I fulfilled my dream, that's fine, but this is also the result. Okay, very narrow genetic stock, and we get genetics which actually does not look too much promising for the future. But there is hope. There is definitely hope, and I feel that I'm on the best place in the world nowadays where we can discuss this and we can really establish something that Dmitry has already announced, like maybe a new wave, new era of herpetoculture. Let us call it, for instance, responsible herpetoculture, to take all these aspects into consideration. And we should talk about the Parsons chameleon, which is actually the king of the chameleon, and we have an option. Either we repeat our faults, or we take the lesson and we will start playing smart and not playing stupid, okay? Not playing blindfolded, not being blindfolded by commercial interest, not being blindfolded by pride and by egoism and so on. Let us face the things and let us save our hobby, and let us give the chameleons the mission that I believe they have. Chameleons are really sages. They can teach us how to save ourselves and our planet for the next generations. So let us now look at the species we should talk about, which is the Caluma parsonii. This is really the king of the chameleons. It is the most massive, huge, beautiful chameleon species, the biggest chameleon in the world. And of course, because they are so majestic, they are very attractive for the herpetoculture. And we are now in the moment where this species starts getting like the food into the field of being relatively well established in the captivity. This species has nowadays two subspecies. One is the nominotypical one, the Caluma parsonii. Actually, I saw that the colleagues in America have always issues with Latin, so I try to adjust. It is actually Caluma parsonii. And the other subspecies is the Caluma parsonii christifer. They live along the east coast of Madagascar. They usually do not enter the coastline, but they live a little bit behind. But their area of distribution is quite big. This map is not showing the proper picture anymore. These are actually historical data of all the data that we knew where Caluma parsonii actually lived in the past. Nowadays we look at habitat destruction, about terrible state of Madagascar, of the nature. If you look at the official sources, they are of course partly hiding the reality, partly well, meaningfully lying to us. Madagascar is really from one perspective something like a paradise, and from other perspective it is something like hell. Who has been there, and I see the Craig, for instance, has just get back from Madagascar. He will confirm that the habitat destruction is terrible there, right? Primary forest is almost absent. Where it is present is in very hardly accessible centers of some national parks, and even national parks are not enough to provide any meaningful protection for like wild animals, like for instance our Parsons chameleon, because there is too much pressure from the locals. Now it is understandable. At one side, people need to eat. Yeah, but on the other side, we lose the genetics, we lose the diversity, and we need to do something for that. This majestic species, in such a big range, of course, does not look same at all locations. We speak nowadays about 6 to 7 to 8 forms. Yeah, like who is familiar with the area of breeding the panther chameleons? You call them locales or locals here in the United States. It's actually local populations. They have no significance for systematics. Yeah, they are not subspecies, but what they are interesting in what is the importance of identifying these forms is that they build actually local populations that represent some genetic stock which is locally present, and we should not crossbreed. Because the mother nature has, and we do not have time to go into details, has meaningful mechanisms how to prevent crossbreeding, because it leads to genetic deterioration. And for us, it is very important to know where the chameleon comes exactly from, to be able to combine it with a proper female and produce proper genetic stock for the future. So, what about Caluma parsonii captivity? I will not go now into details. Yeah? I have good tidings for you. This species is on the way of being established in captivity nowadays. We have very clear information about their the technology, how to keep them alive, how to keep them reproducing. There were some, open questions, like for instance, extremely long incubation and so on. But nowadays we know that the gestation takes about 100 days, that the eggs are about 20 to 60 depending on the nutritional state and the size of the female, that they reach the maturity sometimes at 2, sometimes at 3 years of age. We know that they are very long-living chameleons. They grow relatively slowly, and they can reach about 15 years, and there are estimates that they might even reach up to 20 years, both in captivity as well as in the wild. And they develop some very interesting behavioral patterns like brumation, which is not typical for chameleons, but they do. They sleep in a sort of lethargic state up to 6 months in the wild, and do not eat and do not drink almost at all to survive. And this is also how they master it to become very long-living chameleon species. Now, how it comes to the moment when we can say it is well established in captivity. We in Bion have a chameleon whisperer, okay? This guy is sitting over there, my very good friend and specialist, biologist and supreme, not leader, supreme breeder of many reptiles, but focused and specialized in chameleons, Sergei Prokopiev. And he made it to establish step by step, on the course of last 20 years, a very nice breeding population of Caluma parzoni, which is nowadays counting about 35 breeding specimens. Okay, and on the course of the last 10 years, the newest number is there was 1,035 captive bred Parsons chameleon produced by Bion and Sergei Prokopiev, which is an impressive number, of course. How it comes that this success happens? Of course, he is a whisperer, so he knows how to talk to the chameleons. It's similar to me. I also listen to their language and I understand what they say. In other words, he's very experienced and then he's a master of his skills, how to keep them alive and how to understand what their needs in the captivity are. However, he is a biologist and he knows very well that we need to look at these animals not only from the perspective of the cage, but primarily from the perspective of their natural environment. Because if we do not understand how they live in the wild, how can we understand what they need in the captivity? Okay, and it is not an easy task because chameleons are very special. They do not hear anything, they do not say anything, they live a very special way. They sleep half of the year, they live high in the canopies, so it's very tricky how to find out what they really, really need. And I have bad news for you. Nowadays, we are in a situation where Madagascar is in such an extent crippled and damaged that to find out how this majestic species actually lives is almost impossible, because most of the animals that you can see in the wild, you do not see in their primary biotope. You do not see in secondary forests. You see in farmland, where they can somehow survive. And we do not know whether the survival is long-term sustainable or whether this is actually the downside of this decline of this species and extinction of this species. And these are the hardest animals that can still 5-7 years survive and sort of reproduce. Whether it is really like something that they can make or they cannot. In the film that will follow my short lecture, we will show you some snapshots of, so that it's better to see than to hear only, how a situation looks like on a beautiful island of Nosiboraha on the east coast of Madagascar, yeah, where this majestic species was very abundant because the center of the island was full of rainforest. Nowadays, the rainforest is shrinked to a tiny area of like single-digit number of hectares. It means very tiny part of the forest, and we are convinced that if we do not do something, this population will disappear. And the disappearance is not counted in decades. It is not counted in years. It is counted in days. we as herpetoculturists can contribute to saving this species and to do meaningful measures so that we keep the genetic diversity in our hands if we do it smart way, so that once we as humans wake up and start caring really for our planet, yeah, and we do some reconstruction work in, for instance, Nosiboraha, that there is a source where we can then take this majestic species and bring it back. Nowadays, so Sergey was there just five months ago, right? Yeah, we are not sure that the species is still present in Nosiboraha. Okay. So, what is our role, and what we can do, and what is the principles that we can hide and can cover under the term of responsible herpetoculture? It is not about like keeping animals for fun. This is also the difference between herpetoculture and just like caging reptiles, right? Caging reptiles, having them for fun, having them as pets, it's a completely different industry. We care for their well-being and for their reproduction, okay? So we propose like a base for our debate, the following picture. Let us, for instance, say that the responsible herpetoculture consists of these elements. Element number one, science, field research, and genetics as one resource, right? A base. Second element is nature conservancy, and we have heard from the speakers here that it's a valid thing where we need to set our position and we need to vocalize things where we can help to nature conservancy, and where we have to defend ourselves that we are not responsible for some things that happen, right? Third element is naturalistic approach, or so-called wild recreation approach in the caging, in the captive management of our animals, because nowadays it is very obvious that specifically for chameleons, the technological approach, take a sterile box, put there a piece of something what it can use to sit on, and just spray it and feed it, it does not work. Chameleons survive only if you really recreate a piece of their environment, yeah? And the better you recreate it, the higher your chances are so that they survive and behave normally, behave standard way, and they reproduce in a long run. So the name of the game in chameleon husbandry, and I'm fighting for that for a couple of years very vigorously, also in social media, is natural recreation and naturalistic approach. And I have here my co-fighter, Bill Strand, who is also, I think, the proponent of this policy and this approach, of course. He's not as radical as me. He's always very kind. Yeah, I'm the brutal one and the rude one. But anyway, this is what I believe in. Next element is breeding programs and stud book issue. I know that this is a topic that is actually new for our hobby. Yeah. No one really seriously does anything, with the exception of some very rare species, which are more or less under the management of zoological gardens. But this is a way how to regulate and how to really get things. I will get back to it later a little bit. Experience sharing. This platform is vital for our hobby, and is vital not only for us who are here, but also for the planet. We can do a big difference. I'll show you how. Caging equipment, supplements. I'm so happy to see people like Emmanuel van Huygen here, my good friend, and all these guys that represent the brands that help us actually to keep the animals alive using technology, be it lighting, be it water management, be it caging, and so on and so on. Without that, we cannot do everything like at home. It's also not possible. Last but not least, the effort can be efficient only if we will be allied, if we will be together, because one man does not change the world. But if one man organizes a conference like Philip with Alan did, right? We can unify, and we can build a power which is more than just, sum up of our powers. Yeah? There is even scientific studies that two guys can raise such a big amount of energy, like if it would be 10. Yeah? And how many are we here? About 70? Well, maybe 100, yeah? Okay, 100 people, okay? This is a critical mass that can do a big difference. And it is up to us. We can talk, we can have a beer, and then we can go. Dmitry goes to Ukraine, I go to Vietnam maybe, where I live now, or to Russia. You stay here, you go back to New York, whatever, yeah? And we can say, okay, it was a nice time. Or we discuss and we do something and we put the energy together to make a difference. Now, if you look at the logics of the elements that I spoke about, specifically in the context of chameleon husbandry, yeah, what we look at is field research and science. There are many aspects, many issues that are not known or not popular and not understood properly, and this is why we actually, with even goodwill, kill our chameleons and all the other reptiles as well in captivity. Yeah? Chameleons do not drink, but in the captivity they are considered heavy drinkers, correct? They don't drink. You know what chameleons drink in the wild? They drink fog. Okay? Who knew before? Lift your hand. You see? You knew. Excellent. Yeah? It is not only about chameleons. All the other reptiles that live in areas where there is fog and they stay outside at night, they drink fog. Okay? Next thing, pollen. Pollen, or bee pollen, yeah, is a universal remedy. It's a panacea. It is full of everything that we try with a very high demand of energy and technology, recreate in our like industrial vitamins and then mixtures and so on. And we have it in the wild. Yeah? It is pollen. Who feeds pollen now? It is for many people, it is maybe the first time that you hear that you should feed pollen. And for many of you, of course not, right? Third, dust. Yeah? Why are reptiles so sensitive if it comes to MBD, the metabolic bone disease? Why is it, where does it come from that they need so much calcium actually? Well, they need so much calcium, on the example of chameleons it is evident, yeah? Because they get much more than they need in the wild. Why? Because they are living in a dusty environment. And you can smile now and say, hey Peter, you are crazy. They live in the dense rainforest. Yes, they live in the dense rainforest, and to the dense rainforest, from hundreds and even thousands of miles, the winds bring dust. The dust is composed of several elements, and the most frequent chemical substance in dust is what? CaCO3, the limestone. Okay? So these all are things that we need to take into consideration and to understand what is actually the biotope and what is the genetics about. There are so many rumors, so many myths that are not correct, that are not correctly understood, and this is why we do not properly apply them to the day-to-day practice in our captive husbandry of the animals we care for. Second area is nature conservancy. I will simplify it. I have a wonderful friend. He's from here, from California, from a tiny city about two and a half hours drive from here. His name is Stephen Fitch. He was one of the cardinals of the Free Methodist Church of California, and based on my talk to him, at the type locality of Bitisharena, that was shown by our colleague from the San Diego Zoo just 2 hours ago. At this spot where this viper was found, he asked me a question. I said, Peter, I think I do not do enough for this planet. What should I do? I say, plant trees. I said, what? I'm a priest, you know, I'm a man of God. I do not know how to plant a tree. I say, you ask me? I give you the message that I was given from above. Yeah, plant trees. I say okay, and he established an organization which is called Eden Reforestation Project, which is nowadays one of the most powerful and most successful global private organizations that do reforestation work, specifically in Madagascar, yeah, in the Ankara-Fantsika region. If you have read now recently the paper of my schoolmate Frank Glav about the rediscovery of two chameleon species of Madagascar, Furcifer veltzkovi and Furcifer monoceras. These two species are found in reforested areas of the project of Stephen Fitch. Okay? Plant trees, save chameleons, and you save planet. This is a very simple formula. Naturalistic approach. Yeah? It is not only, I will speak about it a little bit later also, it's not only very nice to see aesthetically nice designed piece of nature that you have in your living room or in your room which is specifically dedicated to keeping amphibians and reptiles, but it is vital for the chameleons. They are wonderful personalities like my very good friend Mario Jungman from the Netherlands, yeah, that live it and do it, and he can reproduce any species of chameleons, even those that you maybe have not heard the names about. Yeah? What is the trick? 1-to-1 to make it same like it is in the wild. To be able to do it, we must not sit on our these parts of the body, I don't know how you call them here in the US. Yeah? You must lift them up a little bit, okay? Put them into the plane, transport them for thousands and thousands of miles, and land somewhere in Africa and run through the bushes, run through the jungles, and understand what the animals live in, what are the ecological factors that influence their well-being and life, yeah? And then come back and be smart and make it for the good of the animals, of you, and share with the others. Otherwise, it will not happen. Next step. Let us really be serious about how we can regulate, and not a regulation for regulation itself, how we can really help our genetic stock to do something. With horses, it is normal stuff. With birds, with cats, with dogs, it is normal stuff that you, for instance, cannot get a passport for the animal if it is crippled. Okay? Does it happen in herpetology or herpetoculture? Very rarely. Yeah? Not we, but some of the others that are not here, of course, breed even on crippled animals, yeah? Which are evidently genetically not okay. Yeah? Inbreeding is actually, I am so happy that Philip vocalized it very openly. Inbreeding is an evil, okay? And the fact that some of the commercial breeders says, no, reptiles are easy. They are completely different than all the other animals, yeah? Inbreeding is okay. They can, for tens of generations, they can survive that. There is no negative aspect. It is bullshit. It does not work like that. Yeah? Inbreeding is evil, and we need to prevent it. How can we do it? Other way than if we have, for instance, now such an attractive species like the Parsons chameleon. We have a couple of people only in the world, in the entire world, that can produce good quality offspring with a certain number that is not counted in single digits, but it's tens or hundreds or even thousands of species. And we have two of those, maybe 5 people all around the globe here in this room. Okay? Let us try to do something for it, and let's introduce a meaningful practice that will regulate it, that will put standards, that will raise the awareness, that will raise the awareness about the importance of the pure blood animals, about the importance of pure and clean and high quality genetics, and let us introduce a passport. Not about locals, not about subspecies, but the passport should, like in our case of humans, say, where exactly have you been born, under which tree? Yeah? So that this is the point of reference, not some general labeling, because only then you can reconstruct, sometime in the future, where the genetics came from, and you can do meaningful reforestation and reintroduction programs for the wild. This is the way how we can prevent inbreeding. This is the way how we can offer high quality, and I do not speak now in business terms, I speak about the quality of the genetic and biological material we are dealing with. This is how we can guarantee to the buyer or to the one that is taking the breeding stock from us that this is good, this is high quality, and this actually creates also the value. It is in cats, no one is actually like adapting it, right? A purebred of cats is about 3 to 4 times more expensive than no purebred. Is it proper? It is of course proper. Why do we not do it here? And we always, we struggle. I have heard several times here, we struggle making money on captive breeding programs. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine that like people reinvest and people consider it as a passion, consider it their own mission. I do the same. Okay. However, I have nothing against a good business case for a breeding process. But let us really talk in business terms that are normal in industry. Yeah? High quality, high price, guarantee, high price, shit, low price, or let us feed it to the alligators maybe in the Everglades. Okay, these are the topics that we would like to like inspire you with and put here like the topic on the table and let us discuss these things. Maybe I'm really like a visionary and you say, hey Peter, you are crazy. Like, okay, thank you, we listen to you. Go back to Europe and continue doing your social media work. Yeah, and maybe some of you say, hey, there's maybe 10% truth or something interesting on what you are saying. Let us try to develop this idea further. Okay, responsible herpetoculture is also about experience sharing. It is about sharing. It is about education. And we see that the social media actually destroy our normal human communication. We do not get enough physical contact. And the social media do not give us the space. They are very efficient in some aspects, and they are killing some of the other aspects. I always say, I'm not a Facebook guy. And if you are on Facebook, make sure that Facebook is your slave and not that you are enslaved by the Facebook. It's a very good means, but very bad like owner of your mind and of your data as well. So it is elementary, necessary to share. So who publish, you can publish scientific papers or books, or you can be active in social media, that's fine. I'm so happy to be here down. Herpeton organized this meeting. I will attend in January. It is in half year from now, the World Congress of Herpetology, and New Zealand as well. It's also a wonderful platform. Yeah, and we have 2 big vehicles: Herpeton for herpetoculture, and the World Congress of Herpetology for herpetology. But there must be a bridge. I will gladly do the bridge. Yeah? We need that bridge because this is where we can meet and where we can get more powerful. Herpetologists, by definition, can get very good benefits out of listening to herpetoculturists, and herpetoculture is based on science if it is a responsible one, definitely. We in Bion, of course, invite you to next year conference to Ukraine. It is a cheap territory, don't worry. It will not be like too heavy in money. It will have very interesting topics to discuss. If you will not be able to come in like in person, we will make some technology to help us to bridge the continents and bridge our hearts and souls so that we can be together even if we not be together physically. Yeah? I'm so happy to have here, for instance, also Chameleon Breeder podcast as one of the leading educational platforms that is run for a decade or more by Bill, right? He dedicates, like, I do not even know how much time to do this work, to raise the awareness, to bring the topics, to explain from the basics to the very advanced topics so that people know, because knowledge is power. Knowledge is the base for something that you can then apply to the day-to-day practice, and practice will make the lives of the animals better. And by definition, if you love them, also your life will better. Yeah? And there, the passion comes also. Yeah. Okay. Now, I have spoken about our colleagues that provide actually the technical and logistics and medicaments and our supplements and so on. Thanks God that they have made their businesses, which and let's hope and let's pray for them so that their businesses will be long-term sustainable and profitable, because they enable us actually to do lots of things that we would not be able, or we would not be able for that money to do without their help. Okay, and I hope that no one is feeling now offended that I have stolen from their websites the logotypes and I misuse them for their propagation here. Okay. Now, if you look at it really from the perspective of like interdisciplinary approach, yeah, we are humans, and our evolution is actually also an evolution of our relationship with the nature. Okay. At the beginning, we are part of the nature. Then we step by step, yeah, started to think that we should free ourselves. So we actually like realized and did an exodus from the nature. We run out of the nature. Nowadays, we are like in front of the big Colorado Canyon, yeah, because nowadays our children can maybe not anymore know where the meat comes from. Maybe it is collected from some trees already packed in plastic, right? Or whatever. What is milk actually? Yeah, the egg is really a product of a live being, and not that it's sold on a shelf in Walmart and so on. Yeah, the virtuality is bad. This is why I'm so happy that 2 days ago we took a group of colleagues here, and I still owe to Mike a beer, where is he? For showing me the first letter snake on the US territory here, the very nice red diamond back rattlesnake. That people go back to the nature, that we have the tendency, we want to be in touch with the nature, so that we go field herping. Here you go field herping driving cars, okay? When I go field herping in India or in Vietnam, I run the whole day and the whole night in the jungle, but the purpose and the mechanism is the same. So the tendency is to get back to the nature. And we as herpetoculture, we are actually, we hold a very big potential in our hand. What we do, we build specific cages, yeah? Small boxes, which are full of nature. And we can bring this nature from outside to the home of people. This is a huge power. It is actually in that context something that we can utilize, and I feel that it's our mission. Yeah? Let us not allow anyone to close our hobby, close our passion, not to be able to actually do the loop between like a human with nature, human without nature, and back to nature. Yeah, go field herping and bring some piece of nature to your home, so that our children know that it is not only Tamagotchi that you need to feed with some clicks on the screen, right? But that an animal has feelings, has some behavioral habits, that it needs to be fed, that it needs to be lighted properly, that he needs to be supplemented, it needs to be fed. Okay, there is our future. There is the future of our planet today. Yeah, we will not be here, but I care for my children. I care for their children. I do not want to leave this planet here in a state at which we look at nowadays. So, last but not least, I told about that already. One man can do nothing. Even if Philip will speak here 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week and 365 and a quarter of days in a year, right? He will not raise anything alone, but we together we can. Yeah, Herpeton can. Yeah, Global Chameleon League, which we start to establish, can, together with Bion, together with social media work, together with all the noble people that are here in our industry, we can make a difference. And I want to make a difference. Do you want to make a difference? So let us go for the responsible herpetoculture. Let us really seriously take the topic of responsible herpetoculture as a new era of our approach on the trajectory, building on very solid base of our past, okay? And let's look in the future and do breeding programs, do this process of passporting our animals, create stud books, create conferences, and share, educate, do films, and share and educate and bring the good tidings to the world. This is my wish, and this is, if I would be Martin Luther King, I would say, I have a dream. This is my dream. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. If you're still here with us, next week we're going to be talking with Janet Lee, who has recently picked up a croc monitor, at least at the time of the video, back there in Pomona. It's a wild-caught croc monitor, and there's some other animals she got as well, and she's going to show us those, tell us a little bit about her story, getting into the hobby, and just our usual Triple B style interview stuff with cool animals included. Until then, you've been watching Triple B TV. Y'all take care.